And weight loss or weight gain depends. It depends on
you can be like me.
You can be like me.
Both ways.
It could go both ways.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It could go both ways. Why? I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
You know, but it just depends on the individual again. You know, so.
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a video. And if you're a returning subscriber here, you're most welcome back. And thank you so much for supporting this channel. I am Tina Tulia, 4th year medical student, and today with me is...
Hi guys, I'm Trinity. I'm also a 4th year medical student.
Yes, Trinity is my classmate, a very tight, and a sister in the Lord. We go to class every morning together and we come back together, so that's how tight we are. Yeah. And today we're talking about depression. I feel it's a very important topic. Depression is a common illness or a common medical condition that is out there. It manifests in feelings, in a lot of different things, which we will talk about in details in this video. And yes, that's why we're talking about the biblical aspect of it and the medical science aspect of it, is just to show you guys the weight of this matter. I mean, the weight of this particular illness that is outside there that is usually ignored, so you can actually be serious about getting help concerning this one. So yeah, we'll get into the video and Trinity will give us the introduction of what depression is and what depression is, and then we'll get into the pathophysiology a bit later.
Okay, so depression is essentially should we say a mood disorder, basically, right? And it's a very broad topic, but I think today we'll mostly look at, we'll kind of narrow it down more towards clinical depression, and yeah, that's what we'll mainly look at for now. So why usually we say that there's a difference between that clinical depression and like just the feeling of sadness and things like that. So like temporary temporary sadness, you know. There's a difference between that and just temporary sadness where maybe something happens and then you're like, oh, you're sad for just like a little while. For a little while, and things like that. That could be a cause for like long-term depression, but there's still just a difference between like temporary sadness and like that kind of clinical depression, because that could go for a much longer time. So we'll look at it more when we're talking about the symptoms and the symptoms of it.
Okay. Alright, so we'll get into the pathophysiology, or before getting into the pathophysiology of depression, I think we'll talk about causes. What makes people get into that depressed state.
Well, usually what triggers the whole thing is environmental factors and as well as endogenous factors, the ones where you find, you know, if you found people being like, oh, so okay, maybe they may not say it, but you can tell this person is depressed, or they have been told to be they have been diagnosed as clinically depressed. It could be because of endogenous factors where have you ever had a moment where you ask someone, you're like, you say you're depressed, but what happened? Is there a cause? And then they're like, I don't know. I just, things like that. So there's endogenous factors, if we're speaking about it scientifically. There's endogenous factors to it. There's environmental and endogenous. Those are the two main causes and things like that. There's different pathways to it. I think we'll cover that a bit later as well. But the main causes, so to say, that trigger those pathways is kind of currently unknown. Like the main causes that trigger the endogenous factors, like the decrease in serotonin and things like that. At the moment, they're kind of unknown. They're still under research and things like that. But essentially, those are like the two main triggers. Yes. And we're just going to go straight away to the
pathophysiology of depression, and just to put it out there that the causes could be different from one individual to another. I mean, the things you go through are not the things I go through. So what could lead me to depression would not lead you to depression, but all in all, this pathophysiology might be the same. And yes, like Trinity said, that it is not exact, because scientists are still researching as to why depression happens or how does it really occur. And therefore, but what is outside there, what the doctors actually have found out, is what they also use to treat it medically. Yeah, and that's what we'll be talking about today. And yes, the first hypothesis.
So there's a hypothesis of neurotrophic caused depression, things like that. Essentially what that is about is mainly connected to like prolonged stress periods and things like that, because you know that a person who's been under stress for a long time can end up developing clinical depression. And why that happens usually is because a person who's under stress for a long time tends to release more cortisol in their body. So what cortisol does in the brain usually, to kind of summarize it, it decreases neurogenesis, right? And in it decreasing neurogenesis, it is somehow in connection with BDNF, right? Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, yeah, BDNF basically, which is mostly in charge of like neuron generation, right? Yeah. So creation of new neurons. New neurons. Try saying that 5 times. New neurons. But yeah, it's basically it's, to summarize it, it's one of the factors that are mainly connected to generation of new neurons, basically. So cortisol essentially decreases it has been shown that it decreases the levels of BDNF in the brain, and then essentially decreasing the rate of neurogenesis. So you have lesser neurons. Lesser neurons means lesser neuron potential being fired, and that means lesser activity of the brain and depressed, basically that depressed state. So if it's occurring in the hippocampus and in the frontal lobe as well, you usually then get to see the depressive, symptoms in the person. So yeah.
Okay, wow. Wow. When she went to the action potential, I'm like, go girl, you remember that? And yes, the other hypothesis we have is the serotonin hypothesis. So with this one, we usually see a depletion in monoamines. Monoamines like serotonin, monoamines like dopamine and neuroepinephrine. So with this, the issue usually is with monoamine oxidase, the enzyme that metabolizes this particular monoamines. And yes, with this particular one, or with this hypothesis, it's usually, we don't usually just depend on one monoamine. We have to look at the 3 of them. If the 3 of them are decreased, then we see that we actually see the manifestation of depression in these particular individuals. And of course, this particular hypothesis was discovered because of some drug, neonazide, neoazide,
some hypotensive drug.
Hypertensive drug. So this antidepressant was actually, whenever it was given to the patients, they noticed that it was actually for tuberculosis. It was used for the treatment of tuberculosis, and they noticed that whenever they gave it to these particular patients, their mood was actually their mood became better, and therefore they started treating patients with depression using this particular drug. And yes, during this kind of treatments, of course, they noticed that there was a lot of damp, or this monoamine damp, in the postsynaptic cleft. And yes, and there was also a delay because this particular drug took these antidepressive drugs took like 1 week to work. And with that, the doctors had to just look for other better hypotheses to put depression under. And yes, Which other hypothesis is there?
That's all.
So far, that's all. There are others coming, definitely, and we never know. Dr. Trinity might come up with one. And yes, we just want to go ahead and talk about the symptoms or the manifestations of depression. How does it show?
So usually the symptoms, they usually use to make a diagnosis, right? A more subjective diagnosis. They usually use 5. According to the DSM, 5, right? They usually use like 9 symptoms to characterize. Like, so if a person has 5 of these 9, usually, they can qualify for getting the diagnosis of the diagnosis of clinical depression. So there's depressed mood, there's just a lost a decrease in interest in like things that used to interest you, like maybe you like walking, you like music, but then like now if you listen to music, you're just like, I don't have interest in this thing anymore, you know. So just decrease in interest in things, decrease in pleasure of things, you know, finding things that used to give you pleasure, they don't give you pleasure anymore. And weight loss or weight gain depends. It depends on
you can be like me.
You can be like me.
Both ways.
You can go both ways.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You can go both ways. Why? I don't know, bro. You know, but it just depends on the individual again. You know, so you can't sleep sometimes, or
you
oversleep. So it could literally go like both ways and all of that. Sometimes you get agitated easily, you know, you can be having like a lot of anxiety things, though anxiety is another topic again on the side, but that you can also be experiencing quite a lot of anxiety, fatigue, just that feeling of worthlessness, you know, just that I cannot do this anymore, you know, like I just can't, I can't, you know. The feelings of, you lose concentration actually a lot, and then sometimes, or most of the times actually, suicidal thoughts as well. Maybe with or without attempts and things like that, but usually that's like also one of the big things. So those are the main symptoms usually that I use.
Yeah, and just to add, we could also have overthinking. Having problems concentrating. Sometimes it's hard for you to make decisions. So those are the signs, and usually we take a space of 2 weeks to see the consistency in these signs, because today I cannot oversleep and then start thinking, oh, I think I have depression. I mean, don't use this video to go and start saying, okay, this lady's talked about this particular signs, so you see these signs in one day, and then tomorrow you don't have them. Start thinking that you have depression. No, you don't have depression.
Please go see your doctor.
See your doctor, number one, and the consistency should be at least for 2 weeks. It should be consistent. Maybe oversleeping, you're fatigued, you're overthinking, and most of the times we need to see, like Trinity talked about, at least 9 of these particular symptoms in you. And
but basically everyone, because everyone is bound to have like moments of sadness, you know, moments where things of disappointment will occur. Maybe you fail an exam, or God forbid, or you get like a mark you didn't want in an exam, or, you know, for those scholars out there, you know, like temporarily you can have those feelings and it's okay. That's life, that's part of life. But then if it's something that is just continuous, you find yourself, you can't get out of bed for days upon days, you just don't have the will anymore and things like that, then maybe you can start thinking of that and then getting help. It's very important.
And we would not be talking about treatment of depression here, because we don't want to start prescribing and then you go to the pharmacist and start getting drugs. And the reason as well spoke about the hypothesis also is just to show you that, okay, these are the these are the things that the doctors think about, but they might not actually work. They might not necessarily work. These drugs might actually just put you in a state of addiction. I mean, you keep on, whenever you feel this kind of way, you go to the doctors, they they diagnose you with depression, then they give you these drugs you keep on taking, and it might become a lifetime thing. And this takes more dependent on them. And this is why we want to talk about the biblical aspect of it. How do you deal with depression? Of course, there are other factors that we're going to talk about. I mean, more practical ways that your day-to-day life that could actually help you just move out from that state, but also talk about the biblical aspect of it. But before going into the biblical aspect of it, we need to see, how do you think someone should deal with depression in their day-to-day life? For example, a student that has failed exams and has been thinking about it and has gone into MDD, major depressive disorder. How can they just get out of that, or what can actually help them just to shift a bit?
To shift out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, from my own personal opinion, or should I say from... That's a good question. Okay, I think the first thing that is advisable to do is... of course, there are moments you lose like sight of things that give you pleasure, but trying to also engage yourself in things that are not, if you know the cause of the depression, right? If it's like school and things like that, then take some time away from school where possible, right? And then try to engage yourself more in something that you know you love, something that you know will make you happy, or talking to someone you know will make you happy. Not necessarily talking about your feelings, because I know there are times when, you know, too many questions also, they can become agitating, you know, and someone is like, oh, why, what's wrong, why are you sad, what is this, you know, things like that. So sometimes just talking to someone, you know, like calling your mom, you know, you start talking to your mom, you know your mom or whoever gives you that good настроение, that good mood, that good feeling and things like that. Yeah, so trying to like dip yourself more in things that make you feel a lot happier. That's like on the more practical side of things as well. And another thing that I found that helped me a lot, right? Because
emphasis on me.
Yeah, because Sean, I done went through it all, bro. I done went through it all, but you know, I mean, it's better if it's more personalized, I guess. Yeah. But from experience, honestly, I would say, first thing not to do not put yourself in situations that would harm you. If you know what I mean. Harmful. Don't
self-harm.
Yeah, like not self-harm and things that harmful habits. Don't engage into like harmful habits. Alcohol will not help you.
Can you give examples of those harmful habits?
Like, yeah, like I know a lot of people who turn to alcohol, turn to smoking, turn to just things that are just not good for you in the long run and things like that. That's not gonna help, you know. It's just gonna temporarily give you that buzz, but it's not gonna work. But honestly, what I found to help me in such situations was that just knowing that, okay, I am in this, right? And I know a lot of people always say, go pray about it, go pray about it and things like that, right? And it sometimes may sound annoying when you're the one who's like in the pit and you're like, bruh, you know. But sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go sit down and be like, no. It's just, sometimes it's just sitting down and just being like, yo, God, this is how I'm feeling, bruh, and I don't know why. You know, I know it's more difficult for like the clinically depressed people where you don't know the reason, you know. So sometimes it helps more when you just go sit down and you're like, okay, God, I don't know why, but this is how I'm feeling. If you're gonna cry, you just cry there. Those tears alone are a prayer. And usually also then just knowing that, okay, while you're in that, Christ is literally just around you and like he's just hugging you and things like that. So I promise you this, like if you just go and, how do I say it? Just basically go, don't look at yourself as a big person, but just go curl yourself like you're like that same thing you would do like with your mom, you know, you just go like, Mom, I'm here, I don't know how I'm feeling, but this is how I'm feeling, you know, like just go curl up at Jesus' feet. And trust me, even though you're going through it, he will literally hold your hand through it, and he'll literally help you through it. So for me, that's what helps a lot. Just knowing that, okay, even though I am going through this, Christ is walking with me through it. So yeah, doesn't necessarily mean you're not Christian if you're going through it. Because, you know, people are going through it, but you know, Christ, the most important thing to always remember still, if you find yourself in that hole, basically it's just knowing that, okay, Jesus is holding my hand through it and we're just walking together. So yeah.